Bit blustery. Time is 6:43. So, Sean, we started talking yesterday about car rentals, and holiday car rentals particularly. This thing, you get to the airport and they ask for extra money, and then they say afterwards there's some damage. It's a bit of a pickle, isn't it?
And if it doesn't go smoothly, you know, you're just about to go off on your holiday, it's the worst thing, that can feel like the worst thing that can happen. But car companies have come under a bit of pressure lately. Morning, everybody. They've been grabbing a few headlines in the last few days, last few weeks. Europcar has said it may have to pay out £30 million to compensate British drivers for overcharging on car repairs. That was after an investigation by Trading Standards. And today we can see that complaints from customers are on the rise. So the way it works is if you're not able to sort it out with the car companies and their complaint service, you can go to the European Consumer Centre. Last year, they've seen almost 30% increase in the number of complaints they're getting on this. So since last summer, they've had to deal with about 600-odd complaints about car hire. They've told us it's one of the biggest issues they have to deal with. And the commonest complaints, which some people might be familiar with, were about being charged for damage the driver hadn't done, being misled over excess insurance, that's the protection you can get in case the car gets damaged, and also being overcharged for fuel. So how can you avoid getting into these sort of problems, particularly when you're just going away for a nice holiday? Well, Martin James is here, consumer expert from Resolver, which helps people with complaints against big companies. Martin, morning.
Hello, Sean.
Is this an area that's growing?
Well, it certainly is, and it's an area that's really kind of gets under people's skin. I mean, you've just asking around and speaking to people about this problem, there are so many people who are upset or who've been stitched up by car hire charges. And, you know, full disclosure, this happened to me and my partner 10 years ago, where we ended up paying £500 excess for a tiny scratch on a bumper. So it really does make sense to keep an eye out for some of the common ways that they can squeeze more cash out of you.
So we've had a similar example to that. Laura's got in touch saying she hired a van for a couple of hours, ended up with a bit of a prang when she was taking it back. But they insisted they take £1,000 off her credit card for repairs. I was not given any other option but to pay up. I was totally unaware as to how much it cost them to fix the van. So these repairs and how much it costs is clearly becoming a bit of an issue. Europcar having to deal with that. What can you do to make sure that you don't end up in a pickle that you don't want to be in?
So it's a really good question. There's a couple of simple things that you can do in advance just to avoid the common problems here. And I should say, not all car hire companies are out to get you, but certainly they will try and squeeze every penny of you. You know, when you arrive at the check-in desk, you're going to be tired, a little bit run down, the kids are screaming, and that's when they're trying to flog you 10 tons of extra things that you don't need. A little bit of preparation in advance is wonderful. Pick the best offer that's for you, not the cheapest, because the cheapest offer will have the highest excess fee. And that's important because if your excess fee is £1,000, then that's the amount of money that you'll pay if they claim that they need to make repairs to the car.
Another one, Dave has said they hired a car at Alicante in Spain earlier this year, paid a €950 deposit, and then had to wait 6 months for the deposit to come back. Now, there are lots of these things when you get to the desk that they ask you. Do you have to do any of it?
Not necessarily, no. The credit card one is a really interesting one because what they'll do is they'll freeze that deposit in your account, or they'll kind of provisionally take it, is the official term, and then refund it back to you as soon as. Now, let's be perfectly clear, there is never an excuse for it to take 6 months for your own money to be returned. If your card's a UK card one, you've got more rights. You can complain through Resolver, you can complain to the Financial Ombudsman, so it doesn't have to end in tears there.
And just on, what was I going to talk to you about? Oh, yeah, when you actually hire a car and the damage issue, should you be walking around filming it, getting all the evidence you can beforehand?
Well, it sounds an awful thing to say, Sean, but yes is the simple answer. Now, you don't have to go mad, because obviously we want people to enjoy their holidays, but most of us have a smartphone now or a tablet computer. When you get that car, they'll give you a little piece of paper that they'll kind of draw on the marks where things need to change. So just to ensure yourself, go around, photograph the car from all angles and point out any scratches, because they're the things that can come back and haunt you when you hire the car back.
Great, thank you, Martin. Thanks for that. A few tips there. Jed has got in touch as well with another tip. Always book in advance, Jed says. That's the thing. I mean, imagine how much worse it could be if you turned up not even having a car ready and you had all of those problems. So good tips all round.
Very good. Thanks very much, Sean.
Time now 6:48. Let's return to one of our top stories this morning. The Home Secretary Amber Rudd in San Francisco, where she's meeting